Hey, what's going on, Alec?
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming back for another year.
Yeah, I know I'm excited. Excited to see sort of what's evolved since our last conversation.
Yeah, there's been a couple things. I mean, evolution's natural, but yeah, we've done some things and we've let other
Cool.
things take over.
So let's get into it. I mean, again, why don't you just run us through, the vision for the property? I mean, this isn't sort of your typical lawn
Yeah, okay.
project. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. This is like where we're at is kind of unprecedented times in the world or whatever. But we're just trying to grow a little bit more of our own food. We're not trying to do it all. We're just trying to learn more about it and grow our own food and see what type of solution we can create on our own and have a lot of input with that.
yeah.
And so we started like a little bit of the food forest and then an ecosystem that sort of supports that food forest, since it's a symbiotic relationship with everything. The more we treat everything around the food forest better, the more that thrives, and the more that thrives, the more that everything around it thrives. So we're just trying to figure out what we're doing on our own and carving out a little bit of our own destiny.
Yeah. Well, how about you tell me a little bit about how you got into it and sort of why it was so much more appealing than your run-of-the-mill lawn?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, whoa, I got buzzed by something. Yeah, so I guess like 3 years ago, I threw down a lawn because I was into the lawn, and it failed, and I sat back and like, wow, I did a lot of work, and I just don't want to do that again. And then simultaneously, within the next few days or whatever, my neighbor comes up and I'm in the yard. She's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Do you know about native plants? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I know a little bit about them. And I was even more piqued that sort of just entered into my life. And so I started reading about it a little bit more, and it just made more sense to start to plant something that's in our ecoregion versus plant something that's from like China or something like that. No offense to anywhere, but I think the insects in this area will do better when they recognize the plant that they're trying to access. And so a lot of the native plants is where we started, and then it sort of branched into a food forest, and now it's sort of working together. And I didn't plan it that way, but it's sort of just how it happened.
Why do you think so many people are into just like the whole lawn idea?
Man, how much time do you have? I don't know, because I think back in the day it was grand to have a beautiful, pristine lawn with no weeds in it, and have these magnificent shrubs and everything very proper and trimmed. And I think that's your product of your environment. It's been that way for so long that's more the norm, because that's more of the majority of the people know more about that than they do about sort of letting it go wild and letting the natives come in and creating your own food forest. So, I think it's just people are creatures of habit, and that was what you did. And now more and more people are becoming much more conscious that lawn, it does virtually nothing for the environment. It's got short roots. The grass has short roots and doesn't grab the runoff water. And a lot of these native plants, some of these native plants are getting 8-9 feet deep of roots in the ground. That's sucking up all the water. And with what's happening in this planet right now, and all these different types of storm systems coming in, when it does rain, it rains really hard, and having something deeper rooted is going to capture that water more than a little lawn would that only has a few inches of root growth. So understanding and figuring out that's sort of like the truth behind all that, it ended up, I don't know, in a way it just didn't seem right. And I don't know, this sort of just jumped onto our consciousness, and lady across the street at the right time, and voila, this is what happened 3 years later.
So let's see it.
Yeah, sure. So we have the food forest back in this area, and the food forest has expanded in different ways, but I think before because we can go into the forest up that way, but maybe we walk over here and just check out the meadow first. So the meadow on the lower end it's in its 3rd year, and what we did was we seeded it from a seed bank of species in the Northeast. And this bottom end is what you see. And right now there's a lot of butterfly weed that's coming up. There's no flowers yet, but there's some golden Alexander flowers and stuff like that. But that's what's coming down here. Since then, we've learned that it's better to plant more specific species for your ecoregion. And instead of the whole Northeast, that's very broad. You know, bringing something in from like New York might not like it here. But that's what happened, and that was part of the journey, and that's what we did, and that's okay. And you know, everything evolves or moves in a different direction. But we wanted more meadow, or actually we wanted less lawn. So we extended the bottom part upward last year by another 2,500 feet, and it wraps all the way from here all the way around the back. This is 2nd year growth. There's nothing really blooming right now except for the prairie fleabanes, which I didn't even plant, but they're all over the place. We had lots of daffodils, and you know, the bees love that stuff. But most of the tall stuff that's taking over here is part of the seed mix, where the daffodils weren't part of the seed mix. But yeah, so this is year 2, and there's all kinds of different things in there, from the black-eyed Susans to the coreopsis to the monardas. So you got also lots of warm season grasses in there, like the blue stems and some sedges, I think. Broom sedge, that is, and that's all in there. And I haven't seen it yet. It didn't do much last year. I mowed it to keep the weeds down. So this is it's the highest it's been. Yeah, it wraps kind of all the way around back in here. An awesome part, my neighbor over here, he's doing the same exact thing. His mix that he has over there is this same mix. So our yard bleeds right into his, and he's kind of into the same thing that I'm doing. His efforts are really awesome to go over there and check out, and he's doing very similar to what we're doing. But yeah, it goes all the way back.
So this is kind of this property, you know, this part of the property really brings in the pollinators, and it brings in
for sure,
the native.
Absolutely. I think the whole point of doing this is, you know, to bring in the insects, and to these insects are needed for not just our environment and everything that it does, but it's also needed for the food forest we're creating, because these little dudes, then they come over here, they get their nectar and their pollen, and then they fly over there and they insert it into the flowers in the food forest. And you know, without the bees doing their work over there, then nothing happens. But if they do go over there, then we get fruit, and gives these guys a little purpose. And this meadow and that food forest, they work together. They're buddies. They're symbiotic, and they're both existing now for each other. Yeah. And it's really amazing to see that. There's all kinds of activity in here. There's birds all spring long just looking for seeds, and yellow finches are so cool, dive bombing, and yeah, it's really neat. It's definitely really alive in here.
I mean, it's about being harmonious with
the
ecosystem.
Yeah, it is. Everything flows.
Cool. Well, let's go see the food forest.
Yeah, definitely. We actually extended it out a little bit over there. Haven't planted it up yet, though. We extended it over there. We haven't planted it up. We're just working on the soil for like a year. That's what we did with the main food forest over here. If you remember, we had mostly only wood chips last year in here. And we had the beds, and we had the blueberries, and we had 2 apple trees. And since then, we fenced it in all the way down there, and we added in a bunch of more fruits and some more trees. And you can see that I love these mushrooms though. They growing out of the wood chips. And
So tell me what we got here. What are the different?
Look at this dude. Is that a snake? What is that?
It's a beetle.
Is that a beetle? I thought it was a beetle at first. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. Okay, so last year we had the blueberries and the strawberries and the annual beds, and this year we planted up another set of of blueberries over here, but we did it in a raised bed with this special soil that I made, and this soil is gorgeous. It's pine bark and peat moss and leaves, and that's what this is growing in raised. And because it's the first year, we have some drip hooked up to it. I don't necessarily know that's always going to be there, but I planted these back in November, and this is their first season. They're doing well over here. They're seeming to like it, and I think it's a little bit easier to control the pH with this than it is with the regular dirt. But we put 4 different varieties. They're all high bush, so they're going to also bloom at different parts of the summer.
Yeah.
You know, so one bush you can harvest, and then, you know, a month later another bush. Doesn't necessarily work in that quick succession, but yeah, the point is to have them through the whole summer. So they have to mature, obviously. There's some that have, like this guy will get a little bit of fruit this year. You can see all these fruit coming in here. These little flowers have started to turn into fruit, so that's really exciting. And then over here in the food forest, we planted up our berries, our raspberries and our blackberries. Lots of blackberries are over here, and I'm really excited about them and the blueberries and the strawberries. Something about the berries, but we planted them in last year. A couple of these were here for 2 years now, but the majority of this was just planted. I believe it was in the fall, same time as the blueberries were. But we added that in, and I know there's a little resident snake that loves to hang out under the hay. He loves to come out and sunbathe, but it's kind of cool. I guess he's doing his thing with the predators or
He's
whatever.
The protector, right?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. We also added in a couple pawpaw trees. These are native to our area. See, they're very young over there, and then there's one over here you can get a little bit closer to, and there are 2 different types of pawpaws, so we added that in, so that's new in this area as well. And we plan on putting more in here, maybe a hugelkultur mound in the middle, and I was thinking putting one down there, but this is essentially year 2 of what we've done, and
this is a big space.
It's a big space, yeah. I know it's 30 feet that way, and I would imagine it's like, I don't know, maybe 75, 80 feet that way. So it's a nice big space, and there's tons of room in here yet. And I just don't know what I'm 100% going to do with it. I have in my mind the plans to it, but I just don't 100% know what I'm doing with it yet. And you know, we let the soil sit for 1 year. That's what all the wood chips, these are all aged 1 year wood chips before we planted anything. So in reality, it's the second year of the food forest, but it's actually the first year of the plantings.
What do we got over here?
We're at, back there, those are the strawberry section. We planted up 2 different varieties of strawberries, Seascape, and also a Albion back there, and they'll fruit pretty much real heavy through June, slow down, and then they'll start fruiting again more towards the end of the summer. And there'll be some in between, never really stops, but those are the hardest times, and I love strawberries. They're awesome. So we have that section. They're starting to make their way out, and part of what we're letting happen in here is we're thinking a lot of the forest floor is going to end up being these strawberries. So they're going to work their way that way. And we gave it a little help. We transplanted a few of them down there by the apple tree. But, you know, we're going to let that sort of take over. We're going to let the mushrooms do their things. And, you know, we'll pull some things, but we're going to keep on adding to that and, you know, see what happens. But yeah, we got some strawberries.
So obviously, like, connecting with nature is a big part of this, you know, growing your own food, bringing in the pollinators. It's kind of all of a system that helps each other. You know, it's very interdependent.
Yeah.
Maybe just, I know the sort of the feature of the property is the trail, sort of where you kind of...
You want to check it out?
Together. Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, everything does work together. There's a flow to how the world works, and I don't know, I just think we're kind of in an area where the world isn't flowing as much anymore. But that doesn't mean like we can't make it happen on our property, or I guess flow is dependent on the person who's in the flow or not in the flow. But for us, what we try to do with everything here, with the food forest and the food forest, we extended it that way and we extended it that way, and how the meadow bends around, we created a whole trail system around it. So when you come up, you don't feel sort of like you're just going from point A to point B, back to point A, back to C, back to A. Everything sort of flows in and out, and we created the trail system during the COVID lockdown in 2020 back through the wood area. And since then, it's taken on a new birth, and it's spread out all over the property now, and really connects everything. So come on along. It's a really cool little journey.
Yeah, this is cool.
Definitely have a lot of growth on the trail right now, especially back in here. There's lots of this celandine that's coming onto the trail. It's a real issue, but it's okay. I'm not concerned about it. I know where the trail moves, and you can see it, just very outlined.
This is so cool.
Yeah, one of our absolute favorites are this section over here of these. This is a native woodland plant. It's called a mayapple, and they're absolutely everywhere in here. It gets one single flower, and then the flower only comes underneath the foliage. It's really cool. If I find a flower, I'll show you. But they're everywhere. They stick up kind of higher than everything else. It's almost like it's a little own eco-village in here, where you have some buildings a little higher than others, and these guys are kind of like the guardians of it all, and they're always on the lookout, and they're really cool. We love them. Down to the right is where you came in.
Yeah. Okay, let's go this way.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you come this way, it starts to come away from the woodland, but we've worked on keeping it a little bit clearer and planting some natives along the way, like these ferns over here. We added that in, and we also added in a bunch of Virginia bluebells, and obviously there's still a ton of the mayapple in here, but this is a big project. It's got a lot of invasives in here that I'm just not 100% sure what to do. So for now, I try and contain it until I figure out the best possible strategy for it. There's a snake right there. You see him?
Oh yeah.
I've seen him a bunch more than ever this spring. He's a cool little dude. Yeah. I think that's what my wife and I love about this place, like for a few weeks out of the year, you'll see the fox, and the fox will take the same path every year. He's trying, he's got his routine, and the deer are always coming and going, although we don't see them all the time. But it's really cool to see like the snakes and those types of things that aren't your everyday type of wildlife. It's really cool. We cleaned out this section up in here. It was very heavily invasive, and it still is, but there's even some poison ivy in there, but we did that, trying to manage it a little bit. If we go that way, you know what, let's go this way. This takes us into the old part of the meadow. Crossroad, kind of take a left, and you can go all the way back to the back end of the property. And this is where it's kind of like in the middle of our property and our neighbor's property, but we both thought it'd be really cool to have the path come in here. So we keep this a little bit more cleared and open, so it's easy to walk through and to enjoy everything. Yeah, so the early bloomers in here in the meadow are these Alexanders right here. They're really pretty. And this is the third year, and we didn't see a lot of them the first 2 years, so a bunch. And they're all scattered throughout, so that's what's going on. And the things that are right next to it, I believe all of that, which is the majority of this in this area, are butterfly weed, the tuberosa, and I'm excited for that because you got a bug. Yeah, there you got him. Excited because I wanted to. There's a lot of orange that's going to pop, and I think that's a cool, it's a cool color. So I'm excited for that, especially if I know the golden Alexanders aren't going to be around that much longer, but if the orange could make it and they could kind of do their dance, that would be really cool. But that's kind of what's going on in here. And then we'll get a sea of yellow through here, and we have all this partridge pea, and it's a hardcore nitrogen fixer of anything that's near it, and that'll really dominate everything. And I'm going to kind of control it a little bit more this year because it'll overshadow everything, and that'll be a fun project. But then at the end of the summer, it migrates into like more of the deep purples, and we got all these types of different asters that pop through here, and we're hoping to do a video in the fall to kind of show the progression of this meadow. But primarily that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, cool. Let's keep going now. You can show me sort of the back part.
Yeah, this is the new extension part. Nice big weed in there, but this is the new extension part. A lot of different things, and this is the natural barrier that. This was one of the first things I did. I planted all of these verbinums and eastern white pines and the American hollies and some inkberries. And I just wanted to kind of, because there were more trees here before and they needed to be taken down because of the house, so I don't know, I wanted to give back to it. We both wanted to give back to it, and so we put that whole big line in there of those trees, and they're really starting to mature. We added a little bit of a extension on the shade garden here, and we're really heavy on the mulch for the pine chips. I just have great success with them so far. It really retains lots of the moisture, and I'm not concerned with the nitrogen stealing and stuff like that because I don't mix the chips into the soil where the roots of the plants are. So if it does happen, it's been incredibly minuscule in the last 3 years, but I still think it's a great way to get things started. And we don't really once we put stuff in, we only water it once or twice, even in the spring, because that's how powerful the wood chips are to retain all the moisture in the ground area. So we were excited about this, and we threw in a bunch of native azaleas down in here, and it's something that we didn't have anywhere. And those azalea flowers are always so beautiful that, you know, we wanted to bring a few of them in down in here. Threw some ferns in here, some Virginia bluebells, and eventually this will have a lot of color. Not a lot going on now, but it'll eventually have a lot of color.
Anything else you'd like to sort of share about the property?
I mean, how much time do you, you know, I enjoy being out here. It's definitely a nice way to connect in with everything, but maybe we'll do another video at some different point and do a couple focusing areas, but you know, that's what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to have some fun with it and let our creativity shine and that benefit the environment to benefit us.
Thanks for taking me around. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it again next year.
All right, next year.
All right, cool.
See y'all.
See you, man.
Take the trail out.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this part of the food forest. We added it in this year. Some more berries, some gooseberries, and some currants, and some mulberries over here. So